Don't use Enneagram, the knowledge that you've gained here, and whatever books you read as a shield or a sword. This is really good. Shield would be like, I'm hiding behind the shield. Like, I'm a 7. I was just late because I was a 7. That's what 7s do. And then sword would be like, well, you're just a 1. Like, you just always want to be right. Just let me stab you with like, you're a 1.
Welcome back to the RV Queens podcast, where we're all about women making money on the road. I'm your host, Kate White, and today we're jumping into part 2 of our Enneagram workshop for RV Queen Circles members, led by RV Queens member Taylor Smith. If you missed part 1, go back and give it a listen. It's packed with insights about all the numbers of the Enneagram. Now, in this episode, you'll hear how an RV Queen Circle member named Nancy came into the workshop feeling like none of the Enneagram types fit her. She literally said, I don't like being put in a box. But by the end, she finds a number that clicks, and it changes everything. Now, real quick before we dive in, I want to tell you about something I'm super excited for. On May 8th, I'm co-hosting a live workshop with business strategist Dora Rankin called Podcast and Partnerships. In this workshop, I will be sharing the exact steps I took to build and monetize the RV Queens podcast while traveling full-time with my family over the past 2 years. And then Dora will be teaching how to use your voice and your values to land aligned brand partnerships. If you've been thinking about launching a podcast, or you're wondering how to turn your current podcast into something that actually grows your business and your income, this workshop is for you. Space is super limited, so head to dorarankinconsulting.com/podcast and partnerships. Don't worry, the link is in the show notes. Head there to save your spot. Alrighty, my friend, I can't wait to see you there, and I am so excited for you to hear this episode and to uncover secrets of the Enneagram. Without further ado, grab your coffee and let's roll.
So I'm going to go through everybody. I'm going to start with Penny, since she's 1, and we're going to go back. At your best, Penny, do you relate to the at your best part? The ethical, reliable, productive, all that.
Well, I relate to everything on this screen.
Okay, everything on the screen. Good, that's good. All right, so we kind of skipped through the second page for every number, so we can dive into it now. Now, like I said, everybody's going to have a similar fear, but I think the core desire and then the longing is what changes. So like, for instance, I'm not a 1, but I lived with 1 for almost 2 decades. And I really understand the desire of people you want to have people know that you have integrity. You want them to know that you're ethical. You want them to know that you're good. Your core longing is you are good. So like, there's no worse jab that somebody could possibly say to a 1 to say you're wrong and you're bad. There's some numbers that wouldn't care about that. They'd be like, whatever. Okay, moving on. But right, that's very like, ooh, right here, right? So Penny, I read this one time about the 1s, and I hope that this resonates with you. When you walk into a room, like a gathering of some sort, like the convention you were at not too long ago. When you walk into the room, do you constantly feel like there's like a ticker tape in your brain that's just telling you everything wrong in the situation? Like, that chair probably should have been stacked in the other way. And the people that are on the stage, I noticed one of the banners is a little higher than the other, and et cetera, et cetera.
100% guilty.
So if you have a 1 in your life, including Penny, keep in mind that they have an ongoing ticker tape in their brain. Now, if you are not a 1, you're not married to a 1, you don't think you know any 1s other than Penny, who we love. Think about if you have a wing. So if you're a 9, you might have a 1 wing. If you're a 2, you might have a 1 wing. So you're leaning towards that. You're still going to feel a little bit of that ticker tape in your brain of everything that's possibly wrong. That's something really good to think about with giving empathy to people that you know that are 1s, or if you are a 1, to give empathy to yourself, because not everyone realizes this. The 1s have this ticker tape, and the 1s think that everyone else has the ticker tape when they don't. Okay. All right. So for 1s, we're going to break down your health level and here we go. So 1 goes to 4 and 1 goes to 7. So here's really what's interesting. As a 7, I go to a 1 when I'm stressed. But Penny as a 1 goes to a 7 when she's healthy. So Penny, I can see you laughing. So Penny, in your life, when you've had like really healthy seasons of life, have you been like, you know what? Spontaneous. Let's just take a trip. I'm maybe thinking before you were a full-time RV life, because that's what you do every day. Or forget about the list. Let's just do it. Like when you've been really healthy. Does that resonate with you?
100%.
Yeah. So that's you going to the healthy side of 7, right? Because every number has a positive and every number has a negative. So let's look at their best. So when you're super healthy, fun-loving, super likable, adventurous, upbeat, optimistic, witty, telling the jokes, joyful. Imagine Kate's video for the 2nd year anniversary. Just that encompassed all the healthy things about a 7. That could be seasons of life when you were... Isn't it? It's a great example. Okay. So now we're going to go back to your stress number. So your stress number is 4. So we're going to look at the not so mucho bueno side of 4. You maybe have been more withdrawn, more on the depressed side, moody. Now, everybody gets moody and depressed maybe when they're stressed, but it's more of you didn't feel like you belonged anymore, and you had all these big feelings that you didn't know what to do with, and you couldn't process them in your stress, not all the time, but just in your stress. So that's kind of breaking down your stress number and your security number. But we're going to go back. Lastly, we're going to work on your wings. So if you're a 1, your wings are 9 and 2. You might feel very balanced. You might feel unbalanced. Do you feel like you kind of know enough about 9 and 2, or should we go over that again?
I lean heavily to 2.
To the 2. Okay. So 2 will go to, we don't have anybody who's a 2, so that's good because everybody who needs to know a little bit about all these. Okay. So your 2 wing is probably more of the, I can see this person struggling and I might just go help them. Not necessarily because the motivation of I want them to be seen as good and right, like the 1 would do, just like you genuinely want to help them, which also just kind of makes you a good person, but it's more of a compulsion of like, I should help them. Like you just think about, I should help them. And so then, generous, supportive, you already are all these things and I don't even know you that well. So I could even say like, I can see your two wing, like the co-working that you host, that kind of stuff, like just genuinely being supportive and hospitable and all that. So from my husband also has a lot of a 2 wing. I think it's really important to remember anybody who's a full 2 or has a 2 wing, that we all need to be aware that you can manipulate people that are 2s when you don't even realize you're doing it. And my example is when I was in college, I had this friend, which later on I found out was a 2, but I just knew she was very helpful. And if I needed a ride somewhere, I always knew she was the one that was going to give me a ride. And I'd have to make sure to think, okay, I haven't asked her for a ride for a couple of days. Yeah, I think I can. Because I knew every time I asked her, she would say yes. So that's the 2 that you need to kind of be aware of. Same thing if you're a 3 and you have a 2 wing, same thing. Like you need to be aware of, are people asking me and I'm just saying yes out of compulsion to help them? Kind of being aware of that. And then not feeling like you have much of the 9, right? We're going to talk about 9 in a little bit anyway. So should we go to, go to Jen. We'll go to 5 next. So 5, you've got 7, and then you've got 8. So the number that points away for 5 is the 7. So we already talked about 7 a lot, but you're not looking at the positive aspects of me, Kate, and Kim's personality type. You're looking at the negative parts of our personality. That's where a 5 would go in stress. So let's look at that. More self-focused, going inward, a little bit vain even, kind of escapist. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to procrastinate. I'm just going to like tweeze my eyebrows instead of returning that email I need to return, like just kind of escaping the world. A little superficial and can be not manic in a clinical depression kind of mania, but just kind of like too excited, like too animated, like can't really control the mania, but not in like a clinical psychology, and self-destructive. So that would be where a 5 would go when they're stressed. Remember, the 7 number is the 5's stress number. But the 5 would go to 8, which is the good parts of 8, when they're feeling really healthy. And a lot of times 8 get a bad rap. I'll tell you, I know a lot of women that are 8, and it took them a while to admit that they were an 8 because they didn't want to be seen as a controlling or domineering or bitchy or whatever you want to fill in the blank. But we're talking about 8s at their best right now, not worse. So yes, they can be loud and excessive and controlling, but we're looking at very compassionate people. Will sit down and talk to you about whatever your issues are, and they're extremely loyal. They will stick by your side no matter what. You're very empowering and encouraging to other people. Protective kind of comes along with that, and very self-confident. So those are the good parts of the 8. Okay, so that, and then we'll look at the wings. Okay, so for a wing for a 5, you're either a 4 or a 6, which is great because we haven't talked really about 4 or 6. So we'll go through those. So when you look at the 5, Jen, do you feel like the 6 and the 4, a little bit that I explained, do any of those resonate, or do you want me to just go over them?
The 6 is more like the worrier, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That would probably be how I would lean when I'm unhealthy.
Okay. Well,
I don't consider myself to lean very far to the 4, but perhaps.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about 4 first, and then we'll do 6. Because 4 is often misunderstood. So because, like I said, it's like the artist, emotional, all of that, but there's really good qualities to those people too. Like you can think of why a self-tortured artist would act like. You can think of book characters and movie characters of that, like long black hair with a hood and just like, moping around, but they're authentic people. Like they are extremely multi-passionate, which is oftentimes the 7 is moded as that too, but very creative, very supportive. You can come along somebody who's like kind of going through some stuff. Like you can walk alongside somebody who is grieving a job or a loss or a person or really like a hard time. Like you can be in the muck and the mire with somebody. Not a lot of numbers can do that. So either somebody who's a primary 4 or has a 4 wing, they can do that. And they don't get pulled down by it too. Like 7s, I'll just say, hanging out with a 4 for an extended period of time for a 7 is very hard because it's very hard for 7s to hang out in the muck and the mire for very long. So that's a benefit if you do have a little bit of a 4 wing. So 6s, yes, are more of a worrier. When I sum up a 6, because I have a dear friend who is a 6, she got onto our friend's boat one time. This is a beautiful boat. The people that own the boat are probably millionaires, like a nice boat, not like a little dinghy. She said as she stepped her foot onto the boat, in her mind, she was like, okay, what if they forgot to plug the bottom of the boat and then water starts slowly coming in and we're already halfway into the channel by the time we realize it happens, and she's counting all of the life vests and realize there's one life vest short, and all of this has happened to her before her second foot has even stepped onto the boat. So the way that I describe 6s is they're not having post-traumatic stress syndrome. They're having pre-traumatic stress syndrome. Nothing has happened. Nothing is wrong yet. Your foot is barely on the boat, and you can see all the things that could possibly go wrong. So that is more practical, right? It's not, you don't let it torture you. Obviously, if it's torturing you, then you're going to be paranoid. But it's more of like, practical. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions about the wings or the stress or health numbers?
No, that was great. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. So we're going to go to Sage, who is a 3. We know your primary number is 3, but we're going to go to your health and your stress. So 9 and 6. All right. So the negative part of 9 is what we're looking at right now. You find that you're spaced out, forgetful, stubborn, passive aggressive, not aggressive, because 9s don't rarely get aggressive, but passive aggressive, and judgmental, maybe internally judgmental. You're not like saying it to somebody, but you're thinking it for sure. That would be like the negative parts of 9. And then your health number is your 6. So you're looking at the good side of 6, not the thing that's going to make them have PTSD. It's the part where they're really the most loyal, likable people, honestly. They think 7s are the most likable because they're all outgoing and friendly all the time. But like 6s are statistically like the most, like in high school, what was it like? Most not most popular, but like one of those superlatives is usually a 6. Like likable, super easy to talk to. Like you just trust them when you talk to them. They're good listeners. That would be when you're more healthy. All right. And then we're going to look at your wings are, so 2 and 4. What do you feel like your wings? Balanced or imbalanced or both?
Probably more so 4, just because I don't feel like 2 resonates with me at all.
Well, we'll look at the positives and the negatives of 4 and 2. I'm going to start with 4 since you feel more that in your core. All right. You can dip into the creative. Maybe you've done that before, whatever your creative outlet is. But I think the biggest difference with 4s is you're kind of more in tune. People that have a 4 wing or are 4s are more in tune with their emotions. Like they're settled with their emotions. They're okay. They're not afraid to show their emotions, first of all, but like they understand them. Introspective people are usually more in touch with their emotions. So that kind of makes sense. Now, I feel like these sentences down here are also good to find your wing, because seeks beautiful experiences off the beaten path is more of like an RV related thing. Tends to hang back socially, but it's not to be I just have a typo right there. Tends to hang back socially for people to approach them. So it's not like you're just a wallflower. Like a lot of times some numbers would be a 4 and 1 sometimes tend to be wallflowers. It's not that. You just want people to kind of approach you instead of you kind of approaching them, is what a 4 would think. Then same thing with 2s. If you look under these numbers, great listeners. People are comfortable sharing deep things with you, just sharing with you in general. Host campground potlucks was mentioned on 2 different numbers. 7s do that as well, but the motivation behind it is different. Like the 7s who host the campground potlucks is because we're just like, we want to have fun, have people over, want to get to know you all. 2s are more like, I really want to feed everybody and like kind of be around everybody who's like, doesn't have to make a meal tonight. Like that's kind of different motivation, same outcome. But they're not the greatest at saying no. They overcommit themselves, definitely 2s. So those are your wings. And here's the thing. You always have the same primary number. We'll talk about that at the end. You always have your same wings, but just like a bird, you might need to change course, right? So even though you lean mostly to the 4, there might be seasons of your life where you're like, oh, I'm going to need to like kind of to myself a little bit more in this respect. And then you might come back to balance, or you might just kind of end up staying in one plane most of the time too, if that makes sense.
If you're anything like me and love soaking up that Midwest lake life in the summer, I've got a spot you have to check out. Coconut Cove RV Resort in Hazel Green, Wisconsin is an Our Journey campground that's packed with fun for the whole crew. They've got a 13-acre lake with an aqua park, sandy beaches, boat rentals, and tons of family-friendly activities. Whether you're in an RV, a glamping pod, or a lakefront cabin, this tropical-themed resort has what you're looking for. Click the link in the show notes to book now and start your journey with Our Journey.
So we're going to go to 7. So primary on the 7. 7s can get kind of a bad rep because especially if they're with 1s or if they're with 2s, because they're at their best is very obvious. Like you guys probably would have guessed because everybody here knows Kate the best of anyone, right? I mean, I know some of you know each other in real life, but like we all know Kate the best of everyone. So you see Kate's face, you see her fun videos, you can see her personality come out. That's the at their best 7s, right? The fun, likable, adventurous, goes out, creates a podcast, creates a community, builds a business out of it, invites everybody else to come. That is the obvious. But the at their worst is the stuff that people don't realize has to balance out the best, if that makes sense. So unfortunately, I bring up Robin Williams again because we all saw him at his best, but then we also know how he met his end. And so you can look at the other side of that and think, if you have a 7 in your life or you are a 7, finding the balance and the health of knowing you don't have to always be fun to be loved. You don't always have to be upbeat. It's okay to not be the wittiest one in the room. I'm going to go to the second page for the 7s. So the core feel is just feeling incomplete. 4s have a very similar feeling, but it's different because we also, as equally as wanting to feel complete, also don't want to be limited, don't want to be put in a box, and don't want to be bored. Which is funny because you think it sounds like a child. Like, what? Like, you're going to be bored. That's what life's about. You're going to have limits. You're going to have boundaries. We don't like to be in the muck, like I talked about earlier. We don't like to be in the mire for too long. We have FOMO, don't want to miss out on things. The core desire is to be fully satisfied, but I will speak personally for me, more of the word that always pops up in my brain, in my prayer journals, in my therapy sessions is contentment. Content is a really big theme for sevens. And our core weakness is gluttony, but not necessarily food related. It could be, definitely. I have a very close friend who has struggled with her weight her entire life, and she is a 7. So her gluttony is food, but it doesn't have to be. It can be reading books insatiably, cannot get through the next series fast enough, and you're like emailing the author asking when the next book is coming out. I can't be bored. I have to read the next book. That could be an example of your gluttony too. We use those feelings because we want to overcome any other emptiness we're dealing with. Like if you're having FOMO, or if you wanted to go to that rally and you couldn't go, or whatever. Never feel like they quite have enough. The example that I got when I saw Ian Cron speaking live, which is who I've referenced a lot with these books and these quotes, is he said his son is a 7. And he always imagines his adult son carrying a metal bucket around his entire life. And he goes to this thing and he fills his metal bucket up with all the cool stuff. And then he wants all of this cool stuff, but there's a hole at the metal on the bottom of the metal bucket, and it's always leaking. He never feels like it's full. He wants it to be full, and he fills it up. And then he looks at life and he's skipping around in the daisies and la-ti-tum. And then he looks and he's like, oh, it's not full again. Like that's very relatable for 7s. Like we just want the bucket to be full all the time, and it can't be. And the core longing surprises people when you read this one, because the core longing for other ones, like for one, the core longing is to be good and to be seen as being good. Ours is we just want to be taken care of, which struck me when I first read it, because I thought, well, I'm super independent. I've never felt like I needed that, but that hit me right there is why I thought I was a different number for like 6 months. That's one of the things that made me realize that I was a 7, because deep down, 7s really just want to be taken care of, but it feels vulnerable to admit that. That's really what their core longing is. So 7, security number, we already talked about that. Our health number is 5. So remember, we're looking at the at their best pile here, not the at their worst. So at their best, when we're feeling very healthy as a 7, we can be analytical. We can persevere through things that are kind of like challenging. And we can have like objectives, and we can check things off a list. Like we're feeling like we're being, when I wrote perceptive, it means like we're aware of everything around us without letting everything stress us out. Like we're aware of what's going on, but it's not the constant ticker tape necessarily. So you're curious about things, and you might have a little more solitude. I know I had a season of my life where I was like, I think I'm just going to stay in. My husband was like, what? I'm like, I'm good. Like, I'm not depressed. I'm not sad about it. I'm just going to do that. So that's like kind of the 5, the good part of the 5. But then if you go to our stress number, which is 1, I find it interesting that I go to my husband's number when I'm stressed, the bad side of my husband's number when I'm stressed. So the at their worst ones, we're not looking at the good part of the ones. When I'm stressed, when a 7 is in a stress season, they become very black and white, very cynical, critical, uptight, checking off the list, not in a good way, like sticking it to people about the list. Like, I told you were going to do that and you didn't do it. And I'm very anxious that you haven't done it yet. So the negative parts of the 1. The dogmatic for me was the biggest thing, because I'm not a dogmatic person normally. I'm very like, I'm not a black or white. I'm not an either or. Whenever those like cute little Instagram things pop up and it's like, are you a beach girl or a mountain girl? I'm like, both. Like, do you like hot drinks or cold drinks? I'm like, both. Like, I'm not very black or white, but when I'm in a stress season and I'm bumping over those rumble strips, I am like, there is no gray area. It is either right or wrong. And I've like put the brakes on and be like, oh, wow. And we'll talk about how I do that later. Okay, that's a good suggestion. So we've talked about the 7 stress number and the health number. So now we're going to go to the 7 wings. And so we've got on either side of us the 8 or the 6. You can, again, like I said, with the wings, like you might be flying straight and you've got balanced wings and you use both of those personality traits and you lean on them depending upon what your season of life is. Or I lean heavily on my 8. I don't use the 6s often, but there have been times that I have felt like I've used that tool. Like I pulled the 6 tool out of my tool belt because it's there. Kate and Kim, do you feel like, what are your wings leaning towards, balanced or unbalanced?
I tend towards 6 for sure. Every once in a while I can pull the 8 hat out if I have to, but it's not my natural state for sure.
We're going to look at the 6 first, which Kate leans more towards. So the 6 are really good. One of the things I wrote down on this bottom underneath the number 6 is great with niche experiences. Like 6s are usually very knowledgeable about like random stuff. And they love being knowledgeable about random stuff. Like, for instance, the Enneagram or, yoga or mountain climbing or, like just niche type stuff. They do always imagine and plan for the worst. It's not just imagining, it's planning for it. That's the healthy part of the 6. It's if you're just always worried about the 6 or about the thing that could happen, it's different than planning. So like I said, if you have multiple backup travel plans, that might be a good way that you're leaning into your 6. It's a very practical side of it. And it's also very hard to find the right decision. I think I have that written at the bottom. The right decision is almost impossible. It's very hard to find the right decision. So that's something that like ones don't really struggle with. The ones are like, this is the right decision. This is what we should do. Like, no problem. Most of my friends don't have as much anxiety as I do is a misnomer because they probably do. But that's what 6s report. That's like the sentence. When Ian Cron did a big, whole long study on like sentences that certain numbers would say, that's one of the sentences that it said. Always has a travel backup plan, always imagining and planning for the worst. Yeah. So that's 6. But the positive about the 6, which people don't talk about the positive as much, is they're just super good friends. Like they will listen to you. They'll take you, all of your information. It just stays between them. They're very trustworthy. They're compassionate. Like they make really good friends, not because they're just fun, life of the party 7s. It's because on the deeper level, like they really are really good, compassionate, trustworthy people that will be loyal to you, no matter what you're going through. Okay. So then we'll go to the 8, which is the other side. That's the challenger. We talked about that might have been like the attorney type personality type you would think about, but think about the positive sides of it, right? Yes, they're self-confident and yes, they have like an empowering presence about them. Like they have no problem saying no to a situation. Like they're usually the ones that like in elementary school, you can't really type children, which we'll talk about in just a second. But like the kids that are like, I want to read out loud. That's me. I want to do it. Like oftentimes that could be the 8 because the 8's like completely comfortable talking in front of people, not usually wrong because they're usually very intelligent as well, but they want to be an authority or they want to avoid the person that is an authority. Does that make sense? They either want to avoid the authority or make sure that they are the authority. It is hard for them to trust people. That is one kind of negative part about 8s. They don't do anything halfway. They feel like justice is worth fighting for, which ones also believe that as well. And then what did I see? I have been told that I'm too bold, blunt, or aggressive is the sentence that 8s usually report. Too much. Like I got too much a lot of reports of too much when I was a kid. So that's where I was leaning into the 8. Motivational coaches, podcasters, they have their own Substack, that kind of thing. All right. So that's the wings for the 8. It's really hard to judge your motivations. And I don't know you personally, but you can judge your motivations. So when someone asks a question, and the example I gave was you work in an office and there's cubicles everywhere. It's like that kind of corporate office that makes us all want to go like, I don't want to do that. But let's just pretend, right? We're all working in this big cubicle and somebody walks in the room and goes, hey, should we throw Cindy a party? Her birthday's next week. Kate works there, I work there, and Penny works there. And also, let me see, Sage is a 3. We all work there. Me and Kate were like, yes, we should throw her a party. And then Penny's like, yeah, we should throw her a party. And then Sage says, yeah, we should throw her a party. Well, we're all answering the question the same. Like if we were taking a personality test, our answer is yes. Should we throw her a party? Yes, that's our answer. All of our motivations are different. And I'll just pretend like I know all of your motivations, but here we go. Penny's motivation for throwing a party is someone threw her a party when it was her birthday. So it's only right. And it's only fair that we also, right? Thank you for the thumbs up. It's only fair and right that we would throw Cindy a party. So Penny said yes, but this was her motivation for saying yes. Kate and I said yes because Kate has a killer cupcake recipe she wanted to make, and I have a playlist that I want to play, right? So that's a 7 thing. We just want to have fun. But our motivation was a little different than Penny's motivation. Same answer. Sage also said yes, but Sage said yes because she knows that the next stair step in the sales ladder is Cindy, and she really wants to buddy up to Cindy. And she's not being manipulative about it. She just genuinely thinks, you know what? It's time for Cindy to get some attention. And Cindy will be working on my team if she's on the next ladder. And I really want her to be on the next ladder. So I think, yeah, we should throw her a birthday party. Like, it's totally different motivations for everybody, but we all had the same answer. When you think about your number and you think, well, it could be a 7 or it could be a 5, look at the motivation for 5. I think we're getting closer thinking that you are probably a 7 with balanced wings. But if you look at the visionary, which is the 5, do the core fear, desire, weakness, or longing relate to you? Like, 5s have a fear of obligation, emptiness. They never want to feel incompetent. They never want to feel overwhelmed. They know they're going to be depleted of their resources, right? Like, their social batteries deplete faster. 5s have been said that 7s wake up in the morning and they have 100% battery charge for their emotional, conversational, social. 5s wake up at 50%. So they just don't have as much to begin with. And their core desire is to be knowledgeable, for people to come seek wisdom from them, that they want to be seen as being capable and significant, kind of important. But their weakness is they really don't ever want to lack the inner resources, which they do lack the inner resources, to have too much interaction. They don't want people to see that they lack that interaction, if that makes sense. And their core longing is that their needs are just not, your needs are not a problem. They want someone to say, hey, everything that you need is not a problem. We can make that work. That's what they really want to hear from somebody. As opposed to the 7, which is key. The 7's core longing is, I want to be taken care of. The 6's core longing is, you are safe. Everything around you is going to be okay. So usually the core longings, dependent upon those numbers, are kind of the deal breakers for people trying to figure out, maybe no. And it's still totally fine. Nancy, if you're
yeah,
maybe not.
I would say all of the above. The only thing that I really relate to is that, I usually I need overnight or time away to really bring up my battery again. Yep. And I have about a 4-hour battery charge.
Okay.
So after about 4 hours, I need to go back to my little RV and sit there for a little while and just regenerate. So that is kind of what leads me to the 5. I definitely need my alone time.
Well, you need your social. Yeah. Well, I will also tell you this, that I'm a 7 through and through. I started going through adrenal fatigue about 1.5 years ago, and I dipped from the healthy average. And for about 7 months, I was in the unhealthy. And I had I had social batteries. I did not have my normal social batteries. And my husband picked up on it. We were just about to get out of the bricks and sticks life, and we'd already had the RV, and I could not wait. I craved not having so much on my calendar. And I had to take my kids to martial arts. And so I drove up and I dropped them off, and I looking at them pulled up right to the window, and I'm watching them. And my husband called me. He's like, hey, how are they doing? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. He's like, what? Did you not take them? I said, oh no, I took them. I brought them in, and I set them all up, and I'm outside and I'm reading my book because I didn't want to talk to the parents. I didn't want to have any small talk with the parents. And he was like, we got home that night, and he was like, I think we really need to get your hormones checked. Because I already told him a couple of times, I think I'm not feeling myself, blah, blah, blah. I was 100% in this unhealthy range, and I became an extrovert, an introverted extrovert, an extroverted introvert for 7 months. And it was only when I started to feel okay, I'm balancing everything out, I feel like myself again, that my social battery. So I guess my question to you is, have you always felt like your social batteries were about 4 hours, or is this a season for you?
I'm in a position now where I'm an empty nester. The only person I have to relate to is myself. So I've really learned a lot about myself in the past 2 years. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely an ambivert because I love people, but I love my own alone time. And I feel like I'm able to be myself more now than I have been ever, because I always had to be the extrovert. I mean, in my job with my kids, I always had to go, go, go. So now that I don't have to anymore, I feel like this is where I'm settling in, and this is what's healthy for me.
Wouldn't it make sense for if Nancy is a 7 with strong balance wings, wouldn't it make sense that she also relates to the 5 because that's what 7s reach to in health?
Yes. So if you've been feeling, I thought if you were feeling unhealthy, then maybe we would go that. But since you feel like, I feel like you're probably in the average healthy range, it might just be, it's hard to identify your number because you're so healthy. It's harder with that number. Like with a 7, it's harder. Like the example I gave Kate was, we have a really good friend that's an 8, and she is an 8 through and through. Like I know her well. We've researched it, all of that. And when my husband found out she was an 8, his reaction was, she's an 8? Gosh, she's so nice though. We were like looking at each other and we're like, that's because she's really healthy. Like you would never have guessed. But man, when she needs to put the foot down at work, like she does it. She gets stuff done, and she's got no qualms about confrontation and saying no and all that. But like she was just so healthy that like even though he knew her well, he didn't know. So that could be it too, Nancy. Like Kate said, right? Hit the nail on the head. Like you could be just really in a healthy situation and you are a 7, but you go to your 5 because you're like, I'm good. I figured it out. Like, so we'll see. I mean, I would definitely say read a little bit more about 5 and 7.
I want to watch that TED Talk. I did listen to the podcast, but I do want to watch the TED Talk. I didn't have a chance to do that yet. But I do feel that I am in a position in my life right now where I am healthier and stronger and more self-aware I've ever been able to be, because I always had so much stuff coming in, kids and husbands and people, you know, and now I'm like, I can just not, you know, I've been through everything, but it just, and now I'm like, I feel very selfish sometimes, but now I feel like I can just get to know me.
I love that through the course of tonight, Nancy went from not feeling like any of them to feeling like she found a type that she relates with. So yay. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone being here. I do want to do a prize giveaway real quick. And then Taylor, after we do a little giveaway, would you be able to leave us with the inspiration where you are going to teach us how to get back to our healthy state when we're feeling stressed out?
Yes.
Okay. Amazing. Okay, you guys, the prize tonight is actually not totally RV Queens related. It is, I will send the winner the Ian Cron book called The Road Back to You.
The Road Back to You.
Yes. And here's the trivia question that this is how you're going to win. You can either unmute yourself and say it out loud, or you can type it in the chat if you're able to. The first person to respond correctly. What is the name of the Franciscan monk who brought the Enneagram over to the English-speaking world?
Get the Jeopardy.
You need to go back to a few slides, please.
No Googling, no chat GPTing.
I can tell you where. I can tell you where it is. I just can't tell you what it is.
Nobody? Oh no, I didn't prep a backup question.
And I can tell you it was 1990.
You remember
Penny's closest.
Taylor, do you have a backup trivia question you can help us out here with?
What number? I'll give you guys the clue by showing you all the numbers. What number was Edward Scissorhand and Johnny Depp?
4.
Ooh, who said that?
Oh,
Nancy.
Nancy, wasn't it?
Good job.
But Jen had it in the chat fast too. Good job, students. Good job, everyone.
There's the answer.
Richard
Fuller.
Congratulations, Nancy. You figured out your Enneagram numbers tonight, and you're getting a book.
No, I give the book to Jen because I figured out my Enneagram. So we're both winners.
It's so generous of you. Are you like in such a healthy state right now? I can feel it.
Okay, so I don't want to make anybody go super over, but I'm just going to fly through 4 slides because they're really important and I forgot about it until just now. Come on. Okay, this is it. This is super fast. Don't use Enneagram. the knowledge that you've gained here and whatever books you read as a shield or a sword. This is really good. Shield would be like, I'm hiding behind the shield. Like, I'm a 7. I was just late because I was a 7. That's what 7s do. And then sword would be like, well, you're just a 1. Like, you just always want to be right. Just let me stab you with like, you're a 1. That's my example. Not for you, Penny, for my husband, but whatever. Don't assume. This is what we talked about earlier with Nancy. Like, we don't want to assume we know what people are, because we already talked about, like, we don't know what people's motivations are. You're not supposed to type other people, including your children, unless they're adults. If you have adult children, have them take the test, because you don't know what their motivation is. Don't manipulate. I talked about the Enneagram 2. Don't ask the Enneagram 2 to always be the one that helps you do something. And then you guys, I could study this for years and years and years. There's triads and triptychs and all the things. So it's an onion. You can study this for a long time. That's why I don't call myself an Enneagram coach. I call myself an Enneagram enthusiast, because you could keep doing this for years. So I'm not perfect at this, but in the years that I've been researching it, I think the best way to get yourself back to the health side is to think about your nervous system. Everyone's nervous system, everybody has a nervous system. So whether your self-care is meditating or prayer journaling or just breathing, whenever you find that rumble strip and you're like, I am in a pattern, I am acting like my stress number, or someone else points it out to you. If you have friends or family that are Enneagram aware, it is so helpful, because sometimes you don't notice the rumble strips. So calm your nervous system. The easiest that I do, which is because I've taught yoga for a long time and I was a childbirth coach as well, so breathing is big to me, is literally find yourself in a place, hopefully semi-quiet, put earbuds in or sound canceling if you need to, and just breathe. And I do box breathing, which is like breathe in, maybe 4 seconds is a good number, hold it for 4 seconds, and then let it out for 4 seconds. If that doesn't calm your nervous system, first layer of the calming, I mean, you need to work deeper if you're in a deep rumble strip season. Just breathing, telling your nervous system that it's okay to relax. It's okay, you're safe. And then look at your number and read in a book or online or something that you screen captured here, and I can send you slides if you want. Read about what your core desire is. Your core, like if you remember, oh, my core desire is I just want to have contentment and I want to know I'm taken care of. Okay, I'm not crazy. That's what I think. And I can screenshot, anybody wants me to send them a slide, I will, for your number if you missed that. So yeah, I'd say just take care of your nervous system, and that'll help you to get back to your health.
What I heard you say was more yoga.
And if I'm at a campground near you, come find me.
Yes, good stuff. Okay, thank you so much, Taylor. I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us and your wisdom. Thank you all for being here.
Yay.
Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode and for being part of the RV Queens community. Remember to hit subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And guess what? You can have conversations like I had on this episode with your fellow RV women who are living intentionally and making money on the road. Head to rvqueenspodcast.com/community to join RV Queen Circles today. It's a totally unique online space with a shared prosperity model that's all about community over competition. I'd love to have you be a part. All right, guys, I'll see you next week, or hopefully I will see you on the road.
Such a healthy state right now. I can feel it.